Yay, I think this is it. I think we are in. Oh, and I spelled our title wrong. It's so terrible. Whenever I make a spelling mistake, Clarissa, like a small piece of me just cracks. Like I feel like I just I was like a spelling bee person. So I'm like,
I actually commiserate with that. I die inside too with spelling mistakes. Okay, I get it.
yes. All right, you guys, welcome, welcome, welcome to today's Eat and Greet, where we've got cousin Clarissa back at the Cyber House. We just enjoyed you so much when you came last time. So, this is really a lot of fun to have you back. And I haven't seen the presidential candidates' charts looked at from a vibrational astrology perspective yet. So, I'm really pumped that you are doing it here with us today. And I'm like, I got to just sit back and watch and see what you came up with over there because we've seen them from the traditional astrology perspective so far. So I'm interested to see what you got. So welcome back, my lady.
Thank you so much, Queen Stormie, and thank you all for having me back. I'm super excited about presenting this too, because I think there are some things that are total commonalities that we can see in the vibrations, but other things that may surprise us a little bit about what's going on. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen now.
Okay, cool. And hold on, actually, I don't know if I made it so that you can.
Okay.
There you go.
There we go. All right. So let's get started here.
Okay, we have a question before you jump in, actually. So
Okay.
it's, are progressed charts a thing in vibrational astrology?
Progressed charts can be a thing in vibrational astrology for sure. Let's talk about that elsewhere, because then we're starting to get into math and how, why it's, and that's just like a little too bored. Like we can talk forever about it. But yes.
Yes, it's a thing.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, I'm going to actually just be over here sipping my tea, trying to get well and right with the world and listening and learning and taking in what you've got. So you roll.
All right, you go, girl. You rest. All right, so let's get started here. So, all right, so welcome to part one of 2020 presidential candidate charts from the VA perspective. Before we get into the nitty gritty of the analysis, I want to keep us all on the same page so that we don't get lost in the myriad of detail that is going on in this presentation today. I'm using 3 types of vibrational astrology approaches and techniques for this entire presentation, part 1 and part 2. We're going to do natal vibrational astrology, so natal chart delineation, period. And then we're going to do forecasting primarily with electional. So choosing a date and seeing what transpires on that date. And then compatibility analysis. So how different energies and entities, rather, how they function together, period. So to just a quick recap of what vibrational astrology is, it's formally a system of harmonic interpretation. So we're reading harmonics in a chart, and harmonics are synonymous with vibrations, just in terms of the languaging. Harmonics and vibrations are the same thing. So if you see me dip in and out of one or the other, they're the same thing. So, and like any form of astrology, vibrational astrology has a perspective that really aligns with ideas in physics, particularly the subatomic realm of physics and music theory. So, and let's talk a little bit about that. It's so we know that, formally in terms of astrology, vibrational astrologers read harmonics. That's what we do. But what we're doing kind of conceptually and philosophically is we're interpreting this wide, vast array of literal vibrations and resonances. And another term that you can kind of put vibrations and resonances in is frequency. So we're interpreting energies. There's lots of energy flowing here and there, et cetera, et cetera. We are tracking resonances. So we see how things resonate, how things vibrate, how things buzz, the frequencies they create, and the energies that they create in what we do. So let's talk about tracking resonance a little tiny bit more, because what the heck does that mean? Well, we track resonance using the exact same thing as every other astrologer uses to interpret charts, which is symmetry. So, for example, like this is a grand trine. It is making a symmetrical shape in a 360-degree wheel. So it is a symmetrical shape that we're interpreting and saying this shape in this 360-degree wheel means something. Now, in vibrational astrology, we take this concept a step further, because we don't just look at visible symmetries like a visible trine aspect. We're looking at hidden symmetries that may not be visible by the naked eye, but are existent and powerful. And so a few types of things that we use that are very different from most forms of astrology is we use isotropes, we use direct midpoint structures. And let's talk about that. This is an isotrope. This is just the shape of an isotrope. Let's imagine that this was in a wheel, okay? This is it's a weird kind of shape. It's like a wannabe rectangle / triangle. So in a chart wheel, in a an astrology chart wheel, these aren't necessarily, an isotrope isn't going to necessarily make a visible aspect. Like this isn't necessarily going to be an opposition if it's an isotrope. However, what is very clear for vibrational astrologers is that whatever planets are on these points, whether or not they're making visible aspects, is they're still connected to each other. How are they connected to each other? Well, they're connected to each other really by orb. So for example, these are exact angular distances, okay? They might not be, exact squares, trines, oppositions, or whatever, but if these 4 planets are on these points, they are connected through hidden symmetries because they are forming the same angular distance. All right. So while they're forming the same angular distances, they're buzzing at the same time. So fun. So they're buzzing at the same time. So they are forming an energy, a frequency. And depending on how tight the orb is, if it's exact or partile, like 0 degrees under a degree orb, then the nature of the frequency and the energy is just going to be stronger. And so in vibrational astrology, we know for a fact that we have to read these things because they're creating some kind of network of frequencies that are fundamental for the way that the chart expresses itself in the world. So the basic philosophical tenet, as I've been explaining, is that exact or partile hidden symmetries create strong frequencies too. So for our purposes today, we're going to concentrate ostensibly on visible aspects. I'm going to tell you in a second where the hidden symmetries come from. But for our purposes today, we don't need to know VA. We're not learning VA in a class, whatever. You looking at the screen, just look for big, bold, strong shapes, big, bold lines. Okay, because that tells us how strong the energy is. And if you can think also about the natal chart from a vibrational astrology perspective as a thing that buzzes with specific types of energies or resonances. Like a tuning fork. You can be in the middle of nowhere, and then the tuning fork that you're holding starts buzzing because it automatically picks up on a frequency that it's related to. All right, so for our presentation, what we're looking at, this is how we're going to have to think about these things. we're going to be doing a natal analysis today on a lot of stuff. And so when we're the natal analysis, the natal chart fundamentally remains the same. It doesn't matter if something lights it up but via transit, or if it changes or alters via compatibility. So as we're going through this, just think in the back of your mind, like, okay, the person's still the same, even though we're seeing how the person interacts in these different zones. Okay, the person's still the same. Now, with forecasting and electional, the perspective for our presentation today is there's so many choices. Like, there's so many factors. I don't care what type of astrology that you're practicing with forecasting, that just automatically makes it more more complex. So I'm making a lot of choices as a general astrologer about what I'm choosing to use to forecast and to see what dynamics are at play. Now, finally, with the compatibility, the primary thing that I'm using, which is a primary vibrational astrology technique, is the composite chart. Now, this is very interesting because does anybody know how a composite chart is erected? Okay, well, if you said midpoint, you're right. So basically, when we are doing composite charts of two separate entities, the composite chart is erected by placing the positions of the planets and like everything by the midpoint between chart 1 and chart 2. So the sun midpoint in chart 1 and chart 2, that's going to be where the sun is placed in the composite chart. Do it for every planet, go on and on and on. Now, in terms of philosophy, the composite chart is the fusion of two things. It becomes one entity. So if we're just doing synastry, we're talking about more like the natal situation, where it's like we're aligning the chart wheel by the house cusp, right? And then we're just seeing if the planets form aspects between the charts, right? It's like a bi-wheel situation. Composites are different in that these things are fused into one thing that would not exist without the one or the other. I hope this is making sense. If it doesn't, let Stormie know. But these are like the philosophical concepts that we need to have in our brain. Now, choices. Okay, here's what I'm choosing to analyze today: Donald Trump's chart, Kamala Harris's chart, and Joe Biden's chart. Unfortunately, we got to X out our friend Mike Pence here because he has X data, which means that his birth is totally unconfirmed. It's in probably any form of astrology. An X birth time is just terrible, but particularly in VA, we just cannot even mess with it. So we're going to actually look at these three people. And Mike Pence is going to remain a dark horse, unfortunately. So we have the three humans, and the other two entities that I have chosen is the United States of America, the entire country, and Election Day 2020, November 3rd. And I did it traditionally for November 3rd, midday in Washington, D.C. I'm not deviating like too far. Every astrologer would pick that, right? So anyway, so we're doing Election Day in D.C., the capital of our country, where it really matters. If we did it in Sacramento, it would be how Election Day occurs in California's capital. This is our capital. So this has implications for everybody. All right. And so another thing, these are, I would screenshot this if you would like to. This is a very simple list of the meanings of the base 6 harmonics, which we're going to stick to. Vibrational astrology, we can go very high up and interpret very high numbers. But for our purposes today, we're just going to stick with the base 6. Why? The base 6 harmonics, typically talk about a basic orientation. Somebody is going to have currents. Everybody's going to have some currents in one of the base 6 harmonics. So it's actually really relevant for us. And actually, you can do a full reading. You don't have to even go up into higher harmonics. And you can do a full reading on the base 6. All right. So there we go. That's the setup. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second because now we're going to get into my software program, because the way to really kind of get a sense and demonstrate effectively what the heck I'm talking about is by looking at the charts. And
pull them up.
Pull them up. Okay, cool. All right, so here we are. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, excellent. All right, so we have a lot to cover. We have 40 minutes and a lot to cover. Okay, so let's start. I would like to start our analysis today by looking at ourselves, by looking at the general public of the United States. And I use the USA Sibley chart because the USA Sibley chart totally works for me all the time in all of my analysis. So this is, again, another choice that I'm using as a forecaster analyzer is the Sibley chart because it works for me. Okay, so here's the Sibley chart. And now let's look at ourselves from the vibrational astrology perspective. So we're in the kind of playful and creative 5. And according to the planetary energy currents in the 5th harmonic here, the America finds its joy through work. That, just working hard. Now, the 5 element of it, particularly with these planets over here, Venus, Mars, Uranus, Pluto, is it works to transform. It works hard to transform, to find an ideal, to grow and expand. That's totally America. That's exactly what we do. And so this thing over here with Mercury, Jupiter, Uranus is interesting because in the 5 particularly, it's all about invention. So scientific invention, innovation, there's like an anti-science thing going on now. But if we look at the and even now, the history of America, I mean, what do? We invented the elevator, open heart surgery, Edison, Tesla, everybody was up in America. And so the inventive element is so there. It's so clear in the 5. Okay, so now let's talk about the 7th harmonic, which is way more serious and it's way more internal and personal. Now, these have the currents that we're looking at here, these red lines and these green lines, they have 2 kind of main expressions here. And now this is a little different. This is a collective body of people, an entity and country. So it operates a little tiny bit different from a natal chart, but kind of the same. But okay, so let me just tell you what this means here. So this over here is about methodically becoming the best, full stop, full bar. I don't care. The Saturn Pluto part of this is under any circumstance. I don't care if you have absolutely nothing. You be the best. You get it done. You rise to the occasion and period. So very true for America, in my opinion. This stuff over here is totally different because it doesn't have anything to do with not just work ethic, but like literally methodically dominating and toppling, becoming the best, the desire to do that. That's this. This is, and I do not want to offend anybody, but this is almost like more of a lunacy. This is these currents are really very they can be insane. Okay, frankly. So the interior world, um, so there's an insanity element of it, but there's also a deeply religious element of it with the moon, Uranus, Neptune, where it's taking spiritual beliefs and ideas to the next level. So this is actually really fascinating because as a country, you know, our founders were supposed to separate church and state, but according to this, church and state was never actually in the soul of America separated. There's always some extra spiritual thing, like you know, stuff like that. It's very, very fascinating. This isn't necessarily a rational seventh harmonic. So interesting. Okay.
I know, it's fascinating. It really is, especially to see, I think a lot of even what we're watching going on right now, where that borderline of like
Yeah.
change and lunacy is real thin.
Exactly. And in just a few like seconds, we're going to see that like come alive in a way that shocked me. I wonder if it shocks you guys, because this is really fascinating. So now we're in the eighth harmonic, which is just kind of the eighth. I wouldn't characterize it completely as banal. It's not banal, but it just is what it is. It's open out. It ain't complicated. It's just your face in the world, how you express normally without effort, right? So in America's chart, we express effort by being a figurehead for something extraordinary and important. So we are going after impossible goals that are extraordinary and important. That we're very kind of belief driven with Saturn, Neptune. So we're very much like, okay, like what am I going to do with my soul on this planet? It better be important. Let's work to, so there's a lot of work, like work, soul. It's not like there are a lot of high or higher motives and missions to the American chart. It's not really grounded in reality necessarily. It's grounded in trying to go after these impossible visions. All right, so here's the thing that shocked me. So this might look like kind of a normal chart to you, but in vibrational astrology, this chart literally has nothing. It doesn't have currents that we can read. So in vibrational astrology, the absence of something speaks volumes. It speaks the same, it's like the same amount of volume as the presence of something. So now we're in the ninth harmonic. Guess what America doesn't have? Healing, compassion. Like it's so, like I'm laughing because if we think about it, like literally, the ninth harmonic in a natal chart and any chart is able to relate. It empathizes, it has compassion, it wants everything to heal, it's interconnected. That's the essence of the ninth harmonic. America lacks all of the ability to do that. And if we think about it, you know, the inception of our country, let's commit genocide on the Native Americans. Oh, let's bring in some African, you know, some Africans and enslave them for hundreds of years. And you know, there's this inability to relate on a compassionate level, which is so fascinating to me. Now we're in the 11, and the 11 is just chaos and insecurity. It's also edgy. So basically what this thing says with the moon, Mercury, Mars is that America learns about itself through chaos. So it's almost like innate in the birth of our country to find ourselves through chaos. So that's where we are now, but that's where we kind of always have been. Uprisings, revolts, stuff like that. That's just that's the American fabric, according to the vibrations here. All right, so the 13th harmonic is really interesting for America because it again, well, not again, but this stuff, the sun, Pluto, Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune part of America in the 13, it wants to transform itself through some extremely unique and avant-garde way design. Basically, it wants to stand out. It's like the only way to do this is to stand out. The Jupiter Uranus part of this is interesting too, because there is this there's this, I kind of touched on this, and this was in the 7 too, in a different way. But there's a if you capture the excitement, Jupiter Uranus, of America behind some weird idea around how we're going to transform and become this special, unique thing, you got the heart of America. So, all right. This is the thing about the 13, though, real quick before we move on, is that the 13 is kind of an emo vibration. Emo in that it's existential, and emo in that it wants to be special. It is special. It's always trying to do something unique, but at the same time, it's never good enough for it. So it's like never good. It's like this weird emo. It never accepts itself. So America is always striving in these weird ways. Some of them are exciting, you know, that we do invent, we do create anew, we do create all this weird, never before seen stuff, but we don't have compassion. So we're ideas, religion, and visions, and work. We aren't heart. Ooh, that's crazy. Okay, now this is the thing. Now let's get to the Donald, okay? Because let's talk about this guy from the vibrational astrology perspective. Okay. Woo! I'm just trying to prepare. So for
I'll hold your hair. Don't worry. I'm here for it.
Thank you. All right. So with President Donald Trump, what we've got going on here is actually very unique, because I want to start, actually, I'm just going to start where I want to start. Does this 9th harmonic appear to you like something else that we just looked at? Does it ring any bells? Okay, if you said America's 9th harmonic, you are correct. Because officially in vibrational astrology, there is no current here. So he also, like fundamental America, has problems empathizing. He cannot empathize. Period. End of story. Right? That's what I think it's so fascinating. So that's one thing, right? Let's look at other ways in which this guy can manifest. So now we're in Donald's interior world, his private self. And according to the currents here, he is very motivated by the sun, which in vibrational astrology, the sun is simply yourself. It's the person. It's the individual. Let's think about it like that, right? So he is driven internally by impossible visions for himself. Sound familiar? Yeah. Okay. That's the Donald. Yeah. Okay. But he's also driven by these far out sun, Uranus, Neptune visions, also generated by himself. Sun, 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 sun. And then we get to this thing with doesn't have the sun, but this is like eternal optimist. Eternal optimist, it doesn't matter. Like I can change, transform, etc., etc. But just like from his inner self, he is driven by his own crazy ideas. Okay, end of story. So now we are in his 5th harmonic, which is the more playful and creative part of ourselves natally, right? And so with Donald Trump, what's really fascinating here is that he has a Venus, Uranus, Neptune, Saturn. And the Uranus Saturn part about it makes it difficult. Saturn and Uranus in VA as a pair always engenders conflict because they're going opposite directions as an energy function. So they can never get on the same page, right? So what's fascinating about this is that Venus, Neptune in VA is romance. It's very much idealistic romance. The one, blah, 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 right? And then Venus, Uranus is sex. So he has the way that he expresses and like finds himself in joy, like the things that he likes to do is weird conflictual sex, which is like, duh, like Stormie Daniels. I mean, this is, and it's fascinating because you would think, oh, creativity, play, it's 5. Oh, it's always going to be good. No, he is playing in a conflicting way with attraction and emotion. And this is not just about romantic relationships. Venus Neptune is an artistic ideal as well, so a visual. So he enjoys playing that game of, I'm not who you thought I was, blah, blah, blah. Oh, let me screw with these people. It's fun for him. Fascinating. All right. So this is the harmonic. If we're looking, so let's just do the basic thing. We're looking for very strong shapes and symmetry, right? And out of all of his base 6, right? Which one looks like the strongest to you?
Yeah, the other one. That one.
Yes. The 11th harmonic. We know what it means, right?
Lunacy.
It's chaos. It's chaos. Yeah. Like it's complete chaos. It's completely, there is no stability in the 11th harmonic, right? This is so cool. All right. And now we're looking, this is his strongest of his base 6. So again, he lacks compassion. He's driven by his own inner world. He gets a kick out of destroying ideals. So funny. And then we're in his strongest of the base 6, his 11th harmonic. And let's talk about what this stuff means. So, all right. So now we have the sun again. Okay. So we have the sun, and we have the sun here in this current with Venus, Mercury, and Jupiter. So we have this sun in an opposition. So we have the sun already in a crazy place. It's insane, right? Like it's already going a mile a minute. Blah, blah, blah. It's in the 11th harmonic, right? Now it's opposing Mercury, Jupiter, big concepts, huge concepts. Now think about the pace of the 11. The pace of chaos is rapid. So what we're dealing with is we're dealing with these huge concepts that go at a rapid pace. They don't have a shelf life. They just go constantly in his brain, right? And then we have Venus, which in VA is literally only the function of attraction. So he attracts these big concepts from his own brain. This is what he's attracted to. He's attracted to his own concepts. And his own, so he's attracted to his own concepts in the 11th harmonic way too, which is in every single new second. He can't stay. This is not in the 7, this could focus. This cannot focus in the 11 ever. Okay, so that's one part of it. And then the second part is this stuff, the moon, Pluto, Mars, Saturn. Okay, so Moon Pluto is really the depth of your emotions. Moon Pluto can it's not rational. Moon Pluto in 2 words is compulsive emotions in VA. So we have compulsive emotions in the crazy and chaotic 11th harmonic that's anchoring this opposition with Mars Saturn and the lunar north node. So we basically, he is anchored, and Mars Saturn as a pair wants to do something important. So it does all the chores, it does all the dirty work, etc. He does what's important to his a compulsive emotional self at any given 11th harmonic moment. This to me, like, this is like ultimate explainer of the 11th harmonic, and the absence of the 9 is ultimate explainer of Donald Trump to me. All right. So we only have like 22 minutes. So the 13th harmonic with Donald Trump isn't actually really very strong. I just want to pass. Let's pass on this for now, because I would like to start doing some of that composite stuff that we were talking about earlier. We'll get to Joe Biden and Kamala too. But again, we see that in Donald Trump's 9th harmonic, there ain't much. And similarly, there's not, we can read the quincunxes, which operate really crazily in the 9th, actually, in terms of radical relating. The quincunx in the 9 does not know how to functionally relate to people. It's trying to figure it out. So it's weird. It's funky, right? So this doesn't have that, or this has quincunxes, so we can read those, and we can read Donald Trump's in his 9 as well, but we can't read. Still, the quincunxes don't give it powerful energy. It just tells us how even more funky and unrelated it is. So now let's get to I was looking at Kamala's. Sorry about that. I was looking at Kamala's. Okay, so this is Donald's 9. We saw the United States 9. Now let's see the composite of Donald Trump with the United States when they're together and they form a new thing. Let's look at their 9th harmonics.
Yeah, I'm totally here for this. And we can go longer. We're good to go if we need to. So you just let me know.
Okay, cool. Well, I think we should be able to get to most of the good stuff by the top of the hour. Cool. But thank you, Stormie. Yeah. So, all right. So what we're looking at right now is the composite chart of the United States, 9th harmonic, the empty one, with Donald Trump's empty natal 9th harmonic. And we get something that's far from empty, don't we? We get a whole bunch of symmetry. We get a whole bunch of bold currents. So the 9, in terms of forecasting, you can relate to it as a general populace, a general community as well. So this is like Donald Trump himself in the general community of the United States. And them alone have nothing, but them together have a lot. So let's talk about what they have together. Excuse me. This is so crazy, because what they have together is primarily this thing, which is Sun, Uranus, Mars, Saturn, Moon, Pluto. At this point, we can pinpoint some pairs, right? Moon, Pluto, we kind of know what that means. We also kind of know what Mars, Saturn means. And we do also kind of know what Saturn, Uranus means. So Saturn, Uranus, conflict. Mars, Uranus is also, we didn't talk about this yet, but Mars, Uranus is very aggressive in vibrational astrology. It starts fights. It has a temper. It is not cool-headed. And the 9 kind of subdues it a little bit, but it's still what it is, which is hot-headed. I'm gonna get up in your face, la-di-da, right? So basically, long story short, let's just how I would interpret this entire energy current is that this is Donald Trump and America as one combined entity is also a moon Saturn entity. You can see the orb is actually pretty close. It's only about a degree apart. It's also a moon Saturn entity, which is a loner. Moon Saturn is a loner. So basically, this whole thing gets people who are who feel ostracized or who feel like loners in society riled up around their subconscious. I kind of like to think of Moon Pluto as psyche poop sometimes as well. Like, I'm sorry, like that's not a good term, but seriously, it is the dredges of your psyche. And the Moon Pluto doesn't operate like Venus Pluto and VA. Moon Pluto can be ugly, hideous, like it's so, and so it can get mean, it can get all this kind of stuff, right? We're still in the ninth harmonic, which in a way it's like this current almost it creates a home and a community for psyche poop and for the community that espouses it. There's so much in here because Saturn Pluto as well cuts things off. It chops things off. So when we have a moon Saturn Pluto in the ninth harmonic, it restricts resources. It says, okay, we're going to eliminate this. We're going to eliminate it, and we're going to do it in a way that really doesn't make sense. So if you think about it, and this isn't about like whether I support Donald Trump or not, I think that's obvious if you know me personally. I'm trying to be completely neutral here. So let's just think about the legislation in the past 4 years that we've had him as president and just how this is operating, because this is exactly how it's been operating. Let's cut everything that Obama did. Let's take, I hate those Mexicans, those Latinos. Let's just capture them up and split them apart. No compassion. And, you know, that doesn't, so again, like 9 is like beautiful as an energy, fundamentally beautiful. The ninth harmonic is healing and compassion, but the planets here cuts things off. So how he expresses his love is by saying, you can't have this. I'm taking this away. You don't deserve this. Only the moon Saturn, only the select group of people deserve this. I just think that's crazy.
God, and that's just in the 9.
And it's just in the 9. Like, it's crazy. So let's think about let's go to Joe. All right, so we're going to Joe now. Where's he at? He must be up here. So there we go. There he is. And see what kind of just the person he is that's distinctive. So he has this kite here. It's a kite, obviously symmetry. So this is a powerful current. And so he has he has Mars Jupiter in the 5. So this is a person who's extremely optimistic. It's a person, Mars Jupiter always finds solutions. It's like, okay, this isn't going to happen. Well, then that happens and that happens. Let's do this and that. So it's inherently optimistic just as a planetary pair. And you can see here that it is caught up with the mind poo. This kite is caught up with the psyche poo or whatever of moon Pluto. So you could think like, okay, well, this could be a negative connotation, right? Well, it's forming an aspect with one of the most optimistic and positive things ever. So what this is, it's like, give me your crap. I'm going to find a solution for it. It's just like So this is actually really fascinating because I think that, Joe Biden can come across as dull and whatever, especially in comparison to Donald Trump. But this is actually quite simplistic. Yeah, he is a solutions oriented person. Yeah, he is optimistic. The Sun, Venus, Saturn part of it just makes him plain. It makes him a normal everyday guy. So he isn't inspired in the five to be something above the ordinary. He's like the average guy, and that inspires him in his work. Okay, so now we're in his seventh harmonic, and this is very different from Donald Trump's, and that really the main thing that's here is the Sun, Moon, Saturn. And what that does for Joe Biden, and there's also a Sun, Jupiter, Saturn here. It's like what that does with Joe Biden is it reinforces how serious he is about, especially about seventh harmonic issues. Seventh harmonic is typically it has, unlike the 11, the seventh harmonic has a very long shelf life. It deals with old things. It deals with old structures. It plays at it, and it's disciplined to do something for decades ahead, and it never stops. So the seventh harmonic has a lot of grit in that it doesn't give up. So this guy is basically with this is more, and this is about resilience. You can hit him with any tragedy, but the currents in his seventh harmonic makes him like a brick wall. Nothing, a brick wall on steroids. Nothing can take him down. So now we're in his eighth harmonic, and already are we getting kind of like a different qualities from Donald Trump and even the United States of America? Joe Biden is way more simple than all that. He's like, let her do it. Hey guys, blah, blah, blah. He's like, let's get her done. That's why he's probably coming across as boring, because he is just this guy. So now we're in the eighth harmonic, and this is cool because the Venus, Jupiter, Saturn is saying that, again, the plainness, the Venus, Saturn thing, it's like, and Jupiter, Saturn is all about creating sustainable and functional structures. So a Venus, Jupiter, Saturn in the eighth harmonic is going to be about, yeah, we can do it. Yeah, guys, like, let's get her done. Like, it doesn't matter. It's so kind of, it's fascinating because even though it's not a Venus Neptune, which is very idealistic and it's very visionary and is very romantic in that way, it still thinks, it doesn't think that anything can't be useful no matter how it's packaged. So it is kind of like this banal idealism, if in a way, in that it's like everything means something, everything can become effective even in its plainest form. So that's actually this, and it's not Mercury, but this is probably helping him get legislation passed and stuff, because he's like, okay, hey, there's a clause here, let's just change a word and then we can make it work in the bill. That's how he's operating. So now we're in the ninth harmonic, and it may not seem like there's not like a kite, there's not a mystic rectangle or whatever, but actually these conjunctions here, conjunctions are like the strongest type of aspect in vibrational astrology. And so these conjunctions mean that he actually does have pretty significant current for him in the ninth harmonic. And what's fascinating, I want to kind of keep our eyes on this, which is obviously it's the lunar north node. And I'm just going to read you the definition. Lunar North Node in the ninth harmonic is expressed conviction on the organization of civil society and the orchestration of social affairs. And in the research for the Lunar North Node in the ninth harmonic, guess who came up as one of the top people? Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who created the New Deal, who created Social Security. So the significance of Joe Biden having this here is that there's a few significances. One is that no matter what he's doing in terms of writing bills or whatever politicians do, he's always relating it to Moon Saturn himself and his own psychology, so his own upbringing. And you can see that in his campaign. He's like back in Scranton, like blah, blah, blah. Well, he does that normally. It's not just like a campaign thing. Like he's just always thinking about, you know, the working class and stuff like that, because that's where he grew up. Now, if he didn't grow up in that environment and he grew up, you know, with a silver spoon in his mouth, then he would also relate to policy in that way. But we know in real life that this dude is from Scranton and he's from middle working class, right? So that's one thing. So he is thinking about the working class here. So, and another thing here is symbology. We have a Moon, Mercury, Neptune situation going on here, which means that he is, you know, and this could come across as boring too, frankly, I think. He's just always talking about the American family and stuff. That's the symbology that he's using. He's relating it to let's care for the American family. What's fascinating about this is that he really believes this stuff. We're looking at his fundamental energy. So it might sound like some stupid campaign thing, but this guy actually legit believes this stuff. So finally, we have Mars, Uranus, Neptune. And this is fascinating because Mars Uranus, we know, is like this aggressive force. And here it lacks a lot of the stuff that the United States and Donald Trump composite chart had, right? It doesn't have a Saturn Uranus. It doesn't have where's Pluto? Okay, there we go. It doesn't have a Moon Pluto, right? So it's even though it's still Mars Uranus, it takes off a few of the conflicting baggages that we saw in the previous chart. So in the ninth harmonic, Sun, Mars, Uranus too, and then Mars, Uranus, Neptune is going hard and aggressively fighting for ninth harmonic ideals, which is compassion, which is that everybody is fed, which is that everybody's taken care of. The ninth harmonic can't stand it when people and things aren't taken care of. So that's like, he literally fights for that. And he fights for it through in a Mars, Uranus, Neptune way. So this larger spiritual vision. So he probably does have like God going on in the background. I don't know how religious he is, but et cetera, et cetera. So he also has an 11th harmonic, a very strong one, actually. Maybe not very strong, but he has strong 11th harmonic. And what's really interesting here is that it's really a Sun, Uranus, lunar north node situation here. And so the lunar north node in the 11th harmonic is wild and unpredictable moving physical elements smoothed into functional form. So this guy smooths chaos. So this guy is cool under pressure. And so
until he tells him to shut up.
Oh, yeah.
That debate. I don't know if you saw at the debate where he said, just shut up. I'm like, there you go. All right.
Which is the way to kind of deal. Like, we know that we saw it. We saw it in the debate. You know, Donald Trump chatter, chatter. He couldn't let another person speak over whatever comes into his mind. Couldn't even answer the question, right? And then here comes Joe in chaos talking about shut up, man. You know, like that's the only way to smooth it out. Like just shut the heck up, dude. Right?
Funny.
Yeah, it's funny. So it's pretty interesting. So yeah, so and then we have this is actually quite more, even though it's the sun's there, so it does, the sun in a harmonic does make it more visible in public. It's like obvious to people. This is I basically, how I would read this is your passions are on your sleeve, what you want to do, how you want to transform, what you like, all that kind of stuff. Like this isn't like really hidden. So, you know, what's fascinating to me is that if we're reading this chart, and this is also very personal about his romantic life and the love affairs and stuff, but I don't really know that much about it, so I'm not going to get into that. But when we're doing the analysis on Joe Biden and his base 6, this guy's kind of actually a normal guy. Like he's like this normal kind of chill guy. He really cares. There's a lot of simplicity to him that I find actually kind of striking, because that is kind of in how he occurs to me, my image of him. But it's kind of weird that this is actually really him too. That Venus Saturn stuff, the plainness of it all, Venus Saturn in the 5 and in the 8, he really is who he says he is. That's fascinating. Very fascinating. Okay, so we are at the top of the hour. So I know you said we had a little more time.
Yeah, we're good. I'm like dying to see the composite. And I mean, I want to see Kamala's too. I just want to see it all.
Okay.
Where I'm at.
All right, cool. I'm going to try to keep it. I don't want to, keep you guys too long. So let's do Kamala now. Let's look at this woman in her harmonic. So her 5th harmonic actually really doesn't have much current in it. We can't really read it. There's not, much going on. Her 7th harmonic does, though. So I don't know if you guys remember, I'm pretty sure that Joe Biden had the exact same planetary combination, Sun, Jupiter, Saturn. So Sun, Jupiter, Saturn in the 7th harmonic, it's simply someone who is super disciplined and thinking about the implications of whatever action they're taking and the long-term implications of that. So how this would play out, like Kamala as like a 7-year-old was probably already studying law. I swear down. Like that's how a Sun, Jupiter, Saturn would manifest itself in the 7th harmonic. It's really serious. They're little adults already. And so, but what's different from Joe and everything and everybody we've looked at is the Sun, Jupiter, Moon element of this. So it's really important. This is all about engagement. This is like, okay, engagement in 7th harmonic realms, which would be serious realms. So the Senate, so the Attorney General's office, etc., etc. Sun, Moon, Jupiter, Sun, even though it's in the 7th harmonic, it's still like very social and open and affable. It likes to have a giggle, it likes to connect, etc., etc. But for her, according to this, it's under more kind of like serious circumstances where she thrives on that. She doesn't have frivolous friends. She doesn't have the 7 part of it. Makes like, if this was in the 8, she would just be like party girl, you know what I mean? Like just super fun. But since this is in the 7, it means like, okay, yeah, like let's have fun, but for a purpose, like so okay. So now we're in her 8th harmonic, and she's actually got quite a lot going on in her 8th, particularly the Sun Moon Uranus situation with the lunar nodes. Now, the lunar nodes in harmonics are always, in even numbered harmonics, are always going to be conjunct. So that's why you see them together right here. And so in the eighth harmonic, the conjunction of the lunar nodes means to be a figurehead for something. It's about being literally a figurehead for something greater than you. So this is just like, this is how this occurs. Actually, is actually a simple functionality in terms of energy expression. It just means that this person is always up for it. Like, for example, like if somebody was like, I'm going to give you a promotion. I want you to lead this initiative. I want you to, just be a figurehead, put your face on it. I want you to lead this. She's going to lead it. She's just like, heck yeah. Like, that's just, she is a leader in every moment. The sun, moon, Uranus makes it kind of more amorphous in a way because, and we're in the eighth. So literally she is up for any task. And to lead people. She's a total leader. Okay, so which is awesome. Anything else here? Oh, she's also extremely aggressive. Okay, like moon, sun, Mars, moon, sun, Mars, Uranus, pardon me, in the eighth harmonic. I would not want to cross Kamala. This is very different from Joe. Joe's kind of even keel all the time. With Kamala, she will cuss you out. She won't. And, fortunately, she has this 7, which is really cool. And so she expresses well. This is the 7, like, helps her when she's engaging with the public, kind of do it in a more regimented manner. If she did not have the stuff that she had in their 7, Kamala would be cussing everybody out. She wouldn't have, the foundation. So that's actually very interesting because out of the 2 kind of candidates on the same ticket, like Joe Biden and Kamala is the one that's going to cuss you out. And, God bless. I'm not just saying, cause like, let's reframe it. Like I cuss all the time. So I'm sorry. Like my mind is in the gutter. Let's reframe it. Like Mars, Uranus, you can't get one over on it. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like they will confront you. There will be aggression. So when we're talking about the ugly elements, like actually don't get Kamala and Donald Trump on the debate stage because she would murder him.
She would come for him. It might actually be fascinating to watch what happens because sometimes when you put those heavy energies together, they're heavy enough that they get to real conversation, not just politically, but if you have people in your life and you're both those kinds of heavy energies, sometimes you actually get a lot done with that.
Stormie, thank you so much for that, because that is the benefit of Mars Uranus, in VA. It has this bad rap, but when you get Mars Uranus together, it has all those, aggression situations, but it gets stuff done, man. And so does she. So now, and so Kamala has a very a strong 9th harmonic too. She is very motivated by, this is actually a very fascinating current here with the sun, Saturn, sun, Venus, Saturn, Mars, because this is actually a little bit different. This is about like literally feeding people, like come over, let me make you a meal, like that. It's really that simple. It's not really. And this with the moon effect in this is like, I know she's, Jamaican American and Indian American. So she's probably like just literally really into food. I swear to God, like, and, like feeding people. And I think that that's actually on the grander, like 9th harmonic, public scale, that actually she is similar in drawing on her own, moon, Saturn, all three of these people, I think, well, except for Donald Trump, but Joe Biden also had the moon, Saturn, moon, blah, blah, blah. So I think that, like, for her, in terms of ninth harmonic unity, I think that she's probably very sensitive to things as basic as meals. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, okay, like, what how can we make sure that, everybody is has basic money, basic blah blah blah, so that they can get basic meals. Very interesting. And we also
Yeah.
see
Eddie, I got to tell you this. So Eddie is one of the people in the
yeah,
chat right now, and he said
yeah.
during her presidential campaign, she had a section called "Cooking with Kamala."
Really?
Yeah.
That's so crazy. There we go. There we go. So that's it. She's like Chef Kamala for the public. There we go. That's so weird. Okay. All right, cool. So, okay, finally, so we're in her 11th harmonic, and this really the only thing that's important for us to read here is this grand trine between Mars, Jupiter, Uranus. I actually personally have the same planets natally in the 11th harmonic, and beyond me, it just doesn't matter me or whatever, but Mars, Jupiter, Uranus, particularly in the 11th, is unstoppably optimistic at all times. But the variations on it in the 11 is that it's typically, like, in real life, it always has something to do. It always it's extremely busy, and it's extremely overtaken by all these different options, and it doesn't know when to stop. So if you're talking about, like, unstoppable optimism and and another thing about it is that the 11 makes it more extreme. So the Mars Jupiter that's just finding solutions or whatever, in the 11, it's going to there are it's going to work itself to death for the solution. It's not just going to be kind of casual about it, or like, yeah, like, this could work. It's literally going to the depths of the earth to make it work. So this is actually the bomb. I'm looking at Kamala, and I'm just thinking about our country right now, just looking at her vibrations. Like, I want somebody who can aggressively deal with stuff, who works tirelessly and stuff, which is what she does. Okay, so now let's look, because I know we're at 10 after. So let's end this for now by looking at how all of these separate people work. Like, how they look on the public stage in the ninth harmonic. So here is Joe Biden's ninth harmonic merged into the same entity as the United States ninth harmonic. Let's analyze this a little bit. First of all, this is almost like a star, right? We have a mystic rectangle here, and then we have so many, the grand trines, or not so many, but like a couple. And this is a very strong current. When we see symmetry like this, like, it's forming almost a star. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is extremely strong. So for Joe Biden in America, this is very different from Donald Trump, in that we have the Mercury, Saturn, Mars situation over here, which Mercury, Saturn is the analyst in vibrational astrology. So it constantly analyzes. Mars, Saturn, thinking about doing the most important, the chores, etc. And then a Mercury, Mars is learning. So we have this active learner, this person who is actively, Joe Biden in America is actively learning and researching and analyzing in a ninth harmonic way how to help. Now, it's opposing Pluto, right? So we have, you know, Mars Pluto, which Mars Pluto is similar in Mars Uranus in that it gets a lot of stuff done, but Mars Pluto typically is more project to project based, because the way that a Mars Pluto works is that it completely depletes itself, because Pluto can now it completely depletes human beings. So this is like, so basically what we have is we have an intellect on a project to project basis, analyzing the nuance and detail of what needs to go Saturn Pluto and what needs to happen to orchestrate things. Whew. And then we have it coming out. And even though this is like very enthusiastic or whatever, I'm not really sure the populace is necessarily this guy, basically, if we're just looking at the distinction between Joe Biden in America versus Donald Trump in America, there are, first of all, Joe Biden is totally anchored on Jupiter Uranus enthusiasm. So he still has the psyche poo, but it's like it's with totally different planets. It's psyche poo enthusiasm. It's psyche poo moon Venus Pluto care. So a moon Venus Pluto is like it's compulsive caring. It's compulsive caring. That's really, so this is coming actually from a place of care. Joe Biden in America as a force, it's analytical care. So that's very interesting. Now, if we go back to Donald Trump, it's anarchy. I don't even know. Okay, so here is where Mercury is. And Mercury still has, you know, this enthusiastic thing. So it's not like Donald Trump lacks enthusiasm, but it's
in
kind
a different way. It's just in a different way, right?
It's in a totally different way. First of all, let's just talk about the nuance of it, because now we have a Mercury Jupiter way, which is big ideas. Mercury Jupiter ideas are not planned out. They're grand ideas, they're grand visions, but they're not Mercury Saturn like Joe Biden, where you analyze all the details of these decisions and you know everything, blah 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 blah. So he's generating enthusiasm, Jupiter Saturn, from his own sun, whacked out, not fleshed out ideas. Get out of here.
How does Kamala's look?
Dude.
I'm like, that's what I want to know.
Well, Kamala's is not as strong as Joe Biden's or Donald Trump's when she's paired with the United States, and they're one entity. Kamala's is, I would say that looking at this, it's one word comes to mind, and that's solid. You know what I mean? Like, she's not offering, according to the vibrations in terms of like the general public, anything other than solid, which I don't think is a bad situation necessarily. I don't think, you know, she's doing, there is an inventiveness here too with the Sun, Mercury, Uranus. So what she's likely to do, looking at these currents, is she's likely to come up with innovative. Mercury Uranus is innovative, so this has to do with probably technology, with things that have not been done in governance before. She is going to go there. So she's probably going to be working on, you know, the Green New Deal or something like that. She's going to be introducing very kind of more current stuff, while Joe Biden is going to be doing the analytical part, etc. And it's not like Kamala, she's a lawyer, she's a brilliant person. It's not like she's not going to analyze or whatever, but on the public stage, according to this, she's going to figure out a way to make more inventive ideas about the governance of this country happen in a solid Sun, Jupiter, Saturn form. So she's actually the bomb. I'm really feeling her. And also there's an amenable quality about her with the Venus Mars Pluto. I think that there's going to be probably a lot more emphasis on, women's initiative. Like, for example, one thing that people are talking about that might happen and is likely to happen, looking at the Venus Mars Pluto and the moon here, is like federal daycare. Like, everybody gets preschool and daycare. That's what this kind of stuff would be interested in. So so basically, long story short, she's a solid anchor that brings in and formalizes more out of the box and inventive and future oriented ideas and women oriented ideas for the populace in the United States. So I think this is a good place to end, actually.
So funny. This is like a lot, and you put a lot of work into this, and I just appreciate you being willing to come show us how this works, just looking at it through the lens of the harmonics. Now, what are we going to look at next time?
So next time we're going to focus more on election day itself and how all these parties are faring on election day. So
yeah, that's going to be fascinating. And that is coming up quite quickly here. So we'll get you back here quicker than ever so that we can actually take a look at the harmonics of election day and kind of see how it's gonna go, because it's gonna be an interesting time, especially Mercury direct. I mean, just in general, it's going to just be a super interesting time in this country for sure. So I look forward to seeing what you have to bring to the table on that. So thank you so much, you guys, for showing up. And yeah, man, looking at anything political is always a little bit of a challenge. And it's like you're always on the edge of like, so a personal opinion versus the astrology versus my feeling versus, it's the hardest thing to do ever. I've talked to some of the best astrologers, and it's like that is a thin line because we're so connected to that. So anytime we give it a go, I feel like success is on the map. So thank you guys so much for showing up today. Hopefully we gave you something that was worth your time showing up. Miss Clarissa will be back here just shortly, and we will do part 2. All right, we guys. All right, you guys, I love you. Remember, you can watch this back on the replay ad-free by joining me over on Patreon, or you can just keep it right here and watch it on YouTube as well. We'll see you guys next time.